This is an MS Views and News interview with Nayla Handwerker. She's an MS patient, an award-winning blogger and author. Today, we're going to discuss her drive for creating for MS patients and how she keeps showing up in the public eye on behalf of us MSers. And we're going to get into that right after the jump. So, how do you even begin to go from I'm a young person in the club, girl, don't wear my dress. Wait a second. Oh, I have this CIS. Oh, wait, I actually have MS. Wait, how do you go from like those two steps to award-winning blogger and author and someone who is internationally recognized for being a fantastic patient advocate? How do you do that?
That took a long time. I mean, it was 15 years or so because, when I realized I have the diagnosis, at the beginning I had all these questions: why me, and what does it mean for my future, and should I stop my studies because I will be sitting in a wheelchair staring at a white wall anyhow in a few years.
Yep.
And but that took just like 2 or 3 weeks because I'm a positive person.
Yeah.
And I had all these doctors in the family, and they told me, there are all these various types of MS, and it doesn't mean it has to be a radical straight toward disability course. So I thought, okay, I stopped drinking alcohol right away. I
Sure.
mean, for the first 2 weeks, I drank like one glass of wine each evening, but then I stopped.
Sure. Sure.
And okay, I was always sporty. I was always quite eating healthy food. Let's say stress levels, there was something to improve, but I tried to concentrate on living really a healthy life.
Yeah.
And I was and I was going for, let's say, there are things on my bucket list, and I do them now. I don't wait for it because that's what people normally do. And then they might never reach that point. They wait until retirement or whatsoever. And I was like, okay, no, I do it now. So when my cousin had the option to study at New School in New York City, and for like half a year, I said, hey, okay, I take something from my bank account. Yes, it's right now is as a financial crisis, and I don't get as much money out of my funding. Was that I had said not no yeah no
Well,
like not ETF, but something like that.
yep.
And took it out, and like, hey, I can stay for free for 2 weeks in New York City. I'm doing that.
Doing that.
And my parents sometimes came with, you have MS, Neil, you have to be careful. Or my grandparents. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what my future will look like. And now I can do it, and I do it now.
The bucket list. That's the thing that like resonates with me with other MS patients. And yeah, on one hand, you might want to figure out how to change your lifestyle and figure that all going out. And that's a whole nother ball of wax. But then the other thing is whatever you want to do it now and be in the moment and take care of those sorts of things, not now, but right now. And I'm somebody who does that pretty much. I've always done that. And after my diagnosis, yeah, I do that even more, which is even how we're speaking right now. So that the notion of not now, but right now, that seems to be something that's in you. How could you sort of give that to other patients? Like, how would you instill that? How would you inspire that in other patients who are still in the, ugh, I have MS. Like, don't I have clinically isolated syndrome? And this only happens once. Please, dear God, no. Oh, but your whole thing about getting on with life and doing what you want to do. How do you find yourself between the MSy Nayla, like, oh, I can't do anything, and the Nayla who's like, I have to do everything right now. How do you work that out?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I try to balance it at least a little bit because I can't do everything right now. But I went to all these nice vacation places. I had like say a top 10, top five, something like that. And I have like three small words when on my cover for the podcast, and one is optimism. and facts.
Mm.
And there was a lot of very lovely feedback when I stated it, when I changed the cover, that that person loves the fact, loves the fact that you can bring facts in, scientific facts and optimism, because it is not contraindicated, but you can combine it. You know, you can always look at the bright side and the options. I just had a very lovely podcast with Christoph Hazen about shared decision making, and knowing things about multiple sclerosis doesn't mean you have to be on that horrible track. That is an option, of course,
Yeah.
but there's also the option for the nicer one. And you should look at that field of options and not a field of fear.
Right, because your whole thing is about improving the quality of life with people with MS, and that's my thing as well. And so, talk about that a little bit more. Like, where do you find yourself being someone who says, you know what, this is one of the things I do. I have MS, but I also help other people with MS and help them live their best lives. Like, how do you find yourself doing that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I come from, I love science. I love science. I always was a big fan of National Geographic and things like that, where you try to explain science in a way that is easy digestible.
Sure.
So there are all these improvements. There are all these very, very highly sophisticated, um, intelligent people looking for solutions. And they found already so many solutions for MS people. But now I think it's one of my tasks, and of course it's the same with you, to bring these knowledge, this information back to the patients, but in a way they can digest it. Because sometimes it's not so easy when a doctor explains it. Of course, there are some few ones that are fantastic, but very often they use wording that is not so easy. And if you have like 3 or 4 words you don't understand, you're like out of there. You know,
Done.
your mind is driving away, and you're
Yep.
like, yeah, this night I'm going to eat something else, but you are not listening anymore because you can't understand it. So I try to bring all these great facts and these options that come with it. You know, I mean, even if you have progressive MS,
Mm.
which happens to quite a bit of the community,
Yep.
there are all these options of treatment. There are all these things that can make your life easier. There are all these symptomatic therapies, and of course, I'm a big fan of. Normally, I'm a big fan of less is more, but when it comes to MS, I'm the totally opposite. A lot helps a lot, and I try to do everything I can do. So I try to eat more or less healthy, but not being cruel to myself. So yes, right now I'm pregnant, so I'm eating chocolate when I'm hungry and want
Sure.
to eat chocolate, but
Sure.
I'm eating my fruits and my vegetables as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm doing sports, but I'm doing the sports I love, you know? So
Sure.
the ones that are fun for me. And stress, you always have to look at that thing that stress doesn't mean you have to do a lot, because I have to do a lot with all my podcasts and the master's studies, multiple sclerosis management. It's a lot of work, but that's something I appreciate. So it's not stress that could trigger a relapse.
Huh.
So you have to look at all these things where you have these options, and then there are some things where you don't have options. I can't really do anything against my genetic code. But then there is epigenetic, and epigenetic I can influence, you know? What I can decide to not smoke. I can decide to not drink hardly alcohol. I can decide to do a lot of sports, eat healthy, be surrounded by lovely people, uh, try to train my brain. I can
Yeah.
do all these things, and I can choose my healthcare professionals normally.
Mhm.
So I had a really good healthcare professional in Dresden, and I was living for 13 years of my disease course so far in Berlin, which is a 2 hour drive. Not so bad, but let's say 2 to 2 and a half hour drive.
You don't want to.
And there are all these other great neurologists, but I decided I drive to Dresden because he's not even just a very good neurologist, but I really like his humor. And it's way more fun if you go to a doctor where you can make some kind of fun, you know? And then we were living at the North Sea, which is like 7, 8, 9 hours drive. And I was still going to the doctor 4
Mm.
times a year. Okay, the a good thing is my family lives in Dresden, so I had a place to stay. It was not that expensive.
Sure,
I
sure.
just had to do the visiting, and my family was always welcoming me.
Wow.
Um, but I'm trying to do the things I can, and let's say keeping good track of your symptoms, of how it goes, helps a lot with living the best optimal life. Because I interviewed patients who were moving around a lot and always had a new neurologist, and then data was lost. And disease could progress because there was not that good communication. I mean, that is something hopefully in the future it will become better, where
Yeah.
you have a, let's say, a data track that is not divided, but you can just provide it to the next doctor when you move somewhere. Because I mean, you are living in the United States, and it's very normal to move from one place to the other, and it becomes more normal in Germany or in Europe as well.
Yeah.
And I think that is another important thing, that people can see, okay, is there progression? Is there not progression? Should we change something with the treatment? Should we do something with symptomatic treatment? You have to look at all the different symptoms. If your sleep is not well, your fatigue might be bad. If you have spasticity, your sleep might not be good, and then your fatigue might be worse. So you have to look at the whole picture.
What would you say to a newly diagnosed person to help them get out of that funk and get on with it? You're still going to have MS. It's still going to not be fun, but it doesn't necessarily have to be as bad as it is right now. Like, how do you help get someone away from the worst of it all to, it's bad, but it's not as terrible as I thought it was when I was first diagnosed.
Yeah. So one good thing is it's a disease that is very present in the Western world. And unfortunately for all the other ones,
Mm.
pharmaceutical companies are really concentrating on doing research.
Mm.
And this research is really bringing us to a good point. I mean, Dr. Hauser was presenting, when he started with his career, there were, I don't know, 20 people coming together, or even less. And now
Right.
we have ACTRIMS, the biggest conference with 9,000 specialists who are concentrating on MS. And of course, if I mean, it's one really of the success stories of neurology. People are finding, people are understanding the disease. They are finding out solutions, and then not just trying to preventing the disease onset or the course or the progression, but
Mm.
as well how you can treat it symptomatically. There are so many options. I mean, you can take care that you don't get infections. There are good options of, for example, I take care of getting my flu shot, and um, so there are so many puzzle parts you can take care of, that you are not in a situation where you have to just wait what happens, but you can become active. And that's a great thing. And there are lots of smart people looking for even better solutions for remyelination, for preventing neurodegeneration, for all that. And it's a very, let's say, attractive disease, because all these young scientists, they are coming to that field because they saw, hey, here we can actually do something. And it's young people. It might be my sister, it might be my girlfriend, it might be my boyfriend. They're coming to that field, and they try to help something, because when you are diagnosed, most of the people, of course not all of them, are young persons, and
Mm.
they start from a very good healthy point normally. So it's way easier to have positive positive progression, compared to, let's say, Parkinson or dementia, where you are already 2 parts of your life, 3 parts uh,
Yep.
of your life done, and
Oh,
you can't go back. And
yeah.
I'm sure there are good things as well with these diseases, but it's very attractive, and so many people are going there, and they are looking, and they are really inspired, and they are putting, I don't know, 60, 70 hours per week into research, and it's great. And I mean, it's a world community. It's not these silos anymore, but people are having trials, and then it's Canada together with Denmark, together with Australia, together with, I don't know, Turkey, and of
Sure.
course Germany is always part of it. Ah,
Of
no.
course,
And
always.
no, just kidding.
Uh,
No, but I mean, people are not fighting against each other, but they are working together to find these solutions. And I think that is something really, really great. And it's not a it's not like, having a horrible cancer disease
yeah,
where it's life or death.
life or
It's
death, period.
about a quality of life, and you can do a lot for your quality of life. You can, when you train, for example, your stability, that
Mm,
helps a lot with fatigue, because when you are not so good with your movement,
yeah,
that takes so much of your spoons. When you're talking about the spoon theory,
yeah,
um, then there are not so many spoons left, and you can train your cognitive reserve. And when you train your cognitive reserve, even a relapse won't let you fall back that badly.
yeah.
So many things to do.
So many things to do. Like, thank you for sharing that and sharing the MS perspective with a K from Germany. I say that jokingly because she says that on her podcast, guys, which we will make sure we link to. But where can people find you? I'm getting out of here right now. Where can people find you on the internet?
Yes, it's ms minus perspective with a K, as I'm German, .com. And so I have that website. You can find ms minus perspective.com with a minus perspective with a K on Spotify and all these places, because let's say my focus is the podcast, and
Yeah.
I'm on all these typical podcast platforms. I'm also on YouTube. I'm not doing videos like you do. I'm just doing audio. And there's always a blog article where you can read again the content, which I think is important for people where there might be some cognitive issues. Then you can just read through the parts that were too fast, because I'm talking mostly a bit too fast, I think. Um, can't help it. And if you put in Nayla Handwerker, so NELE HANDWERKER, you will find me. And I'm on LinkedIn. And don't be confused when there is Nayla van Horsten, because that's my name since I got married. But Nayla Handwerker is so easy, and it means handyman. And I try to help people getting more handy with their disease, being self in self-helpful trying to help yourself living a better life.
Absolutely. No, no. Nayla Handwerker, the idea that the better health outcome is not in a doctor, it's not in a pill, it's in you and the questions you ask yourself and the actions that you take and the fear that you get out of the way of. Like, this is on my list. I want to do this before I die. I'm going to do it now. Next. That is the sort of thing that helps you thrive when you have a condition like MS. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your MS perspective with the MS Views and News audience. And thank you all for watching. And we'll see you on another MS Views Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.